Hello and welcome to this episode of Wise Human. Today I have with me a very, very special guest who is dear to my heart. She is so many things. She is a counselor, she is a mother, a wife, she is a world traveler, she is a Peace Corps graduate. I don't know what you would call that, but
So you're an RPCV or Return Peace Corps volunteer
oh,
after you
okay.
finish. Yeah.
Excellent. And she is one of the most positive people I know, no matter what is going
Aw.
on, no matter like the craziest circumstances could be happening. And she will have a smile on her face as she figures out a solution and makes it happen, turns it all around. I love you so much, Lynda. Oh, and
Aw, I
she's
love
also my
you.
wifey for lifey, Miss Lynda Romero.
It's true. I got my ring on right now.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I love you.
I love you too. Maybe we should explain that one, or should we just let that go? People
You
can
know,
infer
we'll
whatever
come,
they
we'll
want.
come, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, Lynda, welcome. I'm so happy that you're
Yeah.
here with me.
I'm so happy to be here with you. I love you so much, and I am so excited for this journey for you. And to be a part of it makes me even more excited.
Yay.
But yeah, we
So
were talking. Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, we were talking a little bit earlier about like the things, that you notice about each other over time, and just seeing you grow into the person that you've become recently is just has been amazing to watch. And I just wanted to say I love your journey.
Oh, thank you so much. You've been a huge part of my journey. Every step of the way, man. Lynda
Yeah.
and I met in college,
Mhm.
which was like 17 years ago or something like that. 15 to 20 years, we'll say that.
Those numbers don't even make sense.
Right, what is time?
They don't
We've
make
been with each
sense.
other almost half of our lives.
I know, that's crazy. We're gonna get to that point where I've known you longer than I didn't know you.
Hmm.
If that makes sense. We're
Yes,
like we're like going to that place.
soon. Yeah, we're in this forever. We know that.
Wifey for lifey. It's true.
Hmm. Hmm. No matter how many men come or go.
Yeah, I'm stuck on one right now, so it's
Yeah,
good.
that's good. That's good. You're fully committed.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
Lynda, tell me a little bit about the Peace Corps and what was your journey with deciding to join the Peace Corps?
Right. So it's funny that we were just talking about men, because, at that time in my life when I decided to join, I was, I think, about 25, and I just completed grad school, and that was like the last goal that I had on my list for myself. And you know how sometimes when you get to a goal and then there's like nothing after that, like you kind of freak out. You should be enjoying it and like celebrating that you met this really fantastic goal, but no, I went into like kind of freak out mode. And thankfully was in a relationship at the time, and it seemed like the gradual next step to like move in and start your family, and just work in the field that I had gotten my education in. And so I started doing all of those things, and I was really, really unhappy. And I think at about 2 years of working, I worked in community mental health. So it was like very intense. And while there were a lot of like really high highs, there were a lot of low lows. And it was just a weird space to be in, because, what was my first job out of school. I didn't know if I was like qualified to be working with this level of intensity and stuff like that. So anyways, I wasn't super happy at my job. The relationship was one of those situations where like on paper, this should have been the perfect person, like I should have been so happy, and all these shoulds were popping in for me, and I couldn't figure out why I wasn't. And so I started to look into what else is out there, what else was I being called to do? Like if I wasn't happy in all these things that I thought I wanted, like what else is there? And I had a friend from high school who had gone to Peace Corps after she graduated college, and kind of shared a little bit of her journey on Facebook and stuff like that. So I was aware that that was an option. And so I started looking into that more. And then, the application process was pretty long. And for me, it took almost 2 years to do, after like getting like the medical stuff completed and stuff like that. So I had gotten everything completed. I started volunteering with a local, I think it was some sort of like a local like ministry organization to help tutor. I think they were Somalian families who were in the area of that I was living in. So you would like go to their house and like, just like work with them on English stuff, like going through their house and posting post-its all over, like, this is the word for this in English, like I wasn't being like a full-on tutor or teacher, but I got to like have this experience of kind of being within another mini culture where I was living, and it was fantastic. I was so into it, and that got me even more excited about, where Peace Corps would take me. I didn't find out where I would be going until about 2 months or so before I was leaving. But at the time that I applied, 40% of people went to Africa. So I kind of like knew that that was somewhere on that continent, which it's a continent, not a country. Like many people, like, this is a thing, we'll get there. But yeah, somewhere in Africa. And then, found out I had the option to go to Ghana. And once that all came through, I left the job, left the relationship, moved out, because we were living together at that time. And I was preparing for this like huge life change. And then all the doubt started to set in, like, do you really want to do this? Now you've made all these changes and you're starting to feel happy. Like, do you really want to, go to a different country for 2 years and make this commitment, and not look back? And there was definitely a lot of hesitation as I was getting like my stuff on the plane and whatnot. But when I arrived, there was no looking back. Like, I was so happy.
I remember visiting you right before you went.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the grocery store with you, and we were looking at tampons, and we were trying to do the math of how many tampons you would have to bring to supply yourself for the whole time you were there. That's a vivid memory in my mind.
It's a hilarious conversation, because they send you this list of things that you're like, you probably won't be able to find like this specific item, And in my mind at the time, like, I was like, I'm not going to find toothpaste. I'm not going to find, like, I don't even know, there was just like all these questions, because there wasn't a whole lot of detail with what they provided you in the beginning. And that was kind of strategic, because once you arrived, you have 3 months of like language and culture training and stuff like that, where you do that with your group in a village before you go off like on your own, and you're very, very, isolated. And so during that 3 months, like, that's when a lot of people decide like if they can really do this, if they don't, if they thought they did, but now they're not so sure, and there was a lot of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it happened like the moment you got off the plane. It was like walking into a sauna. Like, I'd never been anywhere that hot before, and it was unrelenting. Like, didn't like there was no cool breeze. There was no like evening chill. Like, there was nothing. It was, you were in a sauna, and that's gone. It's like, I didn't even realize at the time, because I do like to do things without researching too much, because then you psych yourself out. But like, I knew where Ghana was. I didn't, however, take into account how close it was to the equator. So it's like pretty close to the equator. And like, it's so hot there. And one of my first memories, like getting off the plane, was I sat next to this person, and it was kind of like everything started to get really clear. Like, once you're like literally on the ground, like everything started to just like all your lenses and stuff like that were kind of like washed away. And like, so I had this guy that I was sitting next to that was And I remember this, and I never reached out to him afterwards. He was from the Create Peace Project, and he did like art murals with children, like in different parts of Africa and stuff like that. And he gave me his card, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. I'm already like socializing with like international travelers, like this is amazing. And he hopped off the plane. Like he didn't like take the stairs, he hopped off. And he's like, oh, I love Africa. And like, like put his hands up in the air and was like cheering, he was so ecstatic. And that's when I was like, that's when the heat hit me. And I was like, oh my God, where am I? Like, what is going on? And, that you realize like the material, everything from the material of your clothes to like what taste you have in your mouth to like what smells are like bombarding you, like all of your senses in that like level of heat they're just like heightened. And that was my introduction to Ghana. And they kind of herded us around for 3 months after that, and got us comfortable with that. A lot of people didn't get comfortable, but I did. Like it was awesome.
So you were saying that right before you went, things were kind of turning around, your life was going in a good direction, you were feeling great. What made you decide to actually go? Because it sounds like you were questioning if you still wanted to commit.
Yes. So I think within myself, and something, you kind of touched on earlier, like I'm a perpetual optimist, and part of that is like having the ability to like commit to something and get to that other side. You just get so much confidence, and you see like, yes, there's always going to be struggles, but once you get to that thing on the other side, like you're so, you know, just proud of yourself for like doing it, and I was there with grad school. Like I ran into the same issues, like I picked a school all the way across the country. I didn't know anybody, and it was so hard at the beginning, and just finding a place to live. And you know it's one thing to be poor in college, but to be poor in grad school was like really hard. And like all the way across the country, and like not knowing anybody, and all that kind of stuff. But so I just had that under my belt of like, I made this commitment, it was hard, I did it. And on the other side, it was awesome. So I think I just kind of like referenced that and trusted in that part of the process, like knowing that you signed up for the hard things, and that's a part of what makes it so good in the end. Like not even in the end, like just in the process, the hard parts are a part of it. And although like my life started to clear up a little bit and make a little more sense and feel a little more comfortable, I knew that if I didn't do this, I would regret it, and one of my good friends that I met while we were there, she actually just had a baby, Kelsey. She said, and she made this known to everybody, like her reason for being there was, and I want to say it was a vaccine is what she said, but like that might just be where my mind is right now. But she said that, Peace Corps was her vaccine against a midlife crisis, basically. And so it was, going full on into the unknown, and getting to know yourself on this, deeper level where everything is kind of stripped away, and where you really just don't have any regrets, like going that far out of your comfort zone. Like I think it's not something that a lot of people would go towards, but after doing it, I realized like I had to, like I had to. It set me up pretty good.
Yeah, you keep pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, and that's where you learn so much about yourself. That's where all the magic
Right.
really is, and your resilience grows, and your trust in yourself, your confidence.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so you fast forward to, after 3 months of being in the village, they send you to your actual, site. And at that space, I got really lucky. I was only 40 minutes away from another volunteer, but there were people who were like 5 hours from their closest volunteer. And these are not on like roads. These are like dirt, pothole, like how they even got cars across these things. It's like amazing to me. But I, when I got to my site and I realized, the days are just so long when you don't have, TV, and you don't have friends, you don't have the food you like, and you don't have like all these things that you're used to just bombarding yourself with to distract from what is within or what is there. When all that stuff is gone and you're just sitting there in a hot box basically for hours on end, like every single day, I got all the answers I was looking for, and I told you about the relationship piece. It was at that time, like, I wasn't sure if like I wanted a family, like if I wanted to, go down that very, I want to say like, I don't want to say like cookie cutter, but like
Traditional.
traditional. Yes. That very traditional path. Like, I wasn't sure if that was what was in me, if I was that kind of human, like I definitely to that point had a lot of experiences that made me think like I could never do it. I would be so terrible at it, and had all these doubts about, how I could show up in a relationship or build a family or anything like that. And I didn't know if I wanted it. I thought maybe, I wanted a life where I never knew what was coming next and I could travel all the time and, whatever. And when I got, that time and that space to just like sit and be with myself, I think a lot of the stuff that came to me was, just realizing my own ebb and flow and how I was quick to, point fingers at people around me for causing those shifts in me in the past. Um, Especially when I was like living with a partner or something like that. Like, I would, have these days where I would just be in a mood, but it was all your fault. You know what I mean? Like, I would just point the finger. It was all your fault. You did something yesterday and I'm mad about it today and I'm going to be mad about it tomorrow. But like, sitting in this hot box by myself, I was still in a mood, and nobody was putting me there. Like, it was just me, like having a feeling or going through something. And, now I have a lot more like verbiage for like expressing what was happening and noticing, and self-awareness of like noticing like a feeling was just trying to come through or something like that, or something that, you heard or saw had touched you in a way that you needed to like process deeper or something like that. But I didn't have that awareness before, that experience. And so really stripping away everything, I got that clarity. And so, coming back to the States after something like that, I asked for space, I asked for time, I asked for everything that I needed. I was just very much more of an advocate for like getting my needs met and knowing how to do it on my own. Because like, you're alone there a lot. I was, not to say, there are people in the village and had friends, like there's lots of little kids around all the time. Like, it wasn't like I was in, where's that place they put you at in jail? Solitude. Like, I was not in solitude by like any mean. It was not it was not a negative experience. I don't want anybody to like think that, but just having so much time for yourself and being so like all the distractions are gone, it was super, super helpful. And so I really got in touch with my ebb and flow, and the fact like some days I need to sleep till noon, or some days I need, this or that, and not fighting with myself and not resisting and not being like, no, you need to be productive every single day. You need to get out in the community. You need to go talk to people. You need to learn the language. I definitely like had those days. But when it felt right, like if I tried to force myself out, sometimes there was, positive experiences to be had in that, because, if I just sit for too long, I could, you could drive yourself kind of crazy. So you have to like get out, see the sun. Yes. But it was all practice. So it was like learning, your line, and like when you need to push yourself to get outside, and then when you need to just tell that voice to chill, and like you need to do nothing. And I definitely had those days. And on the do nothing days, this is great. So you have to hand wash all your laundry. So the other part of like everything being stripped away is that you don't also have those things that like assist your life in making the mundane tasks separate from yourself. So you don't have a dishwasher, you don't have a washing machine, you don't have just like stuff that does those little things for you, like your trash. Like, I had to meticulously like separate and clean and burn my own trash or like journal pages or stuff like that, because kids would be running around with them. If I just leave the bag outside, like somebody would take it and like open it up and like treasure, like, so I had to like take care and like dismantle all my trash. And so anyways, going back, I had paid a small girl cookies to wash my laundry for me because I was still like running and pretty active while I was there. So I had to clean it pretty regularly because with the heat and stuff like that, it would just get gnarly. So I would pay her in cookies to wash my laundry, but they can't wash your undergarments as a woman. Like you can't have anybody else wash your undergarments. It's not a, it's looked at weird. So on the days when I literally needed to zone out and do nothing, I remember I would take 5 hours to wash my underwear. Like
Cleanest
by
they've ever
hand.
been.
Yeah, I'm sure they were a terrible soapy mess. Like I was the worst at hand washing clothes. But yeah, I would just sit there and just like grind away and just like get into like a very meditative state with it. And yeah, when I didn't want to do anything else, I was like, it's time to do the laundry. And I would sit there and do that for a little while. And it's funny because thinking about that now, like that's probably something that I need in my day to day that I don't have, like a task that really like connects you to your output or your waste or your whatever, just to like stay in touch with the fact that, because here you put stuff in the garbage and it disappears. And well, Japan's actually better, but about the way that they're meticulous about their trash. I'll talk about that later. So they are very connected to they're very conscious about the way that they use things and their waste and all that kind of stuff. But that is something that I never had a connection with or never really thought about. Well, a little bit. In Oregon, people are very conscious about their recycling and stuff like that. So, and that was where I came from before I went to Peace Corps or in Ghana. So there was a little bit of that, but this is a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So
It
yeah.
sounds like being there, having all the luxuries of the modern world stripped away and
Yeah.
all your connections stripped away, everything
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't help but sit with yourself and
Right.
and you had to listen because you
It,
didn't have those things to distract yourself with. You couldn't just go, I'm gonna go get some food or I'm gonna call so and so or drink a glass of
right.
wine. Like there's
Mm-mm,
no Netflix for
nothing.
you.
No, no. And like, you'd have situations where like the power would go out for days too. So even if you were watching like a movie on your laptop, which was like really common, it would last until your battery died and then you're done. Or until your phone died and then you couldn't even like, because you actually could like text and stuff. It's very interesting in a village like of 2,000 people where we didn't have clean water and people were living in like mud structures. Not everybody, some were like partial cement. So to save money, they would mix in a lot of extra dirt with the cement, which made it really crumbly really fast. But they thought they were like doing a cool thing by like having all this extra cement. It was about quantity, not quality. Anyways, but in a village where like that's like the setup, everybody had a cell phone. Like that part was crazy to me. They got all these really like cheaper, cell phones that functioned, from, I think that they all came in from China or something like that. But people had cell phones and they still didn't have clean water, like they didn't have, yeah, it's weird because like you see on social media and with the internet and everything like that, is the younger kids there, they have this vision of like how life could be or should be. I hope they don't think it's how it should, you know what I mean, coming from where they're coming from. But like they have this vision and then like you look around and it's like that's not what's happening at all, but they still have that language and they still kind of try to like wear the clothes. A lot of the younger kids in the village were very Western in their attire, despite they had tailors there and stuff like that that made clothes for you, which was like a really fun process because you got to pick out all the fabrics and things like that. But yeah, it was still very like Western in that regard. Um, so that whole dichotomy was strange to me, but They
Will
make
you
it
tell
work
us just a
somehow.
little
What's
bit
that?
about,
Yeah.
will you explain just a little bit of what the village was like so we can get a good idea of how
Yeah.
different it actually was?
Sure. So I think one of the best ways to describe like how far out there it was just like to tell you how we get there.
Okay.
And so from Kumasi, which is like the bigger city in the middle of Ghana. So for people for reference, like the state, it was about the size of the state of Oregon, and you just turn it straight up instead of it being sideways. So that's like the size of the country of Ghana. And so there's like they have three main cities, like bigger cities, and Accra is the one that people might be most familiar with. That's on the coast, and that's a pretty well-known area, like lots of travel comes in and out there, whatever. And Kumasi's in the middle of the country, and then Tamale is in the north. And so Kumasi to Accra is like an 11-hour bus ride, I think. So you fly into Accra. I don't know if you can fly into Kumasi, actually. Probably can once you're in the country. Anyways, so 11-hour bus ride. Then from Kumasi, I think I took, oh my gosh, like 3 trotros, which was a van that was like just all seats. It was like old and rickety, kind of like a rickshaw, like I mean, like people have
Mhm.
these concepts, but they called it a trotro there. And so you would wait at a station until it would fill up. So there you could never get anywhere on time because you
No
never knew
schedule.
how, right? Yeah, you never knew how long it would take to fill up. If it was a busy day, you could be out of there in 20 minutes, and if it was not, you could sit there 8 hours, like in the trotro waiting for it to fill up. But anyway, so each one I think was about a handful of hours, or like 3 trotros, and that would take me to my. Oh, actually, there was like a bus, and that would take me to Riaso, and then there were like 2 trotros to my village, which were like each 3 hours, and then a line taxi, which is just a car that goes, back and forth from one spot to another all day. But they stopped running at like 5 or something like that. So to plan a day of travel in Ghana is very difficult.
It sounds like
But
it.
that, right. So it would take you like a day to get to my village from the middle of the country. And if I was coming from Accra, it would take me 2 days. Um, so that's about how far it was out there. So the village itself, they drop you off in this little like zinc covered like structure. Everything is that beautiful red orange dirt that I just like miss so much.
Mm.
I lived in it was the Southwest, so it was still like a rainforest. Ghana is very dynamic, and the South is rainforest. Like the middle, you have like on the east side, you have these super, super big mountains and lakes, and they have tons of like hydropower stuff there that they're like running, electricity over to Nigeria and stuff. Like crazy things are happening over on the east side. And then the north is like desert and very barren, and a huge Muslim population. There's also lots of different like religious ethnicity or religious groups within Ghana. Anyways, so back to the village. Yes, red dirt, beautiful rainforest, green, lush trees everywhere. Um, I lived basically on a cocoa farm. So once the village itself, I can't even tell you, there was 2,000 people. There were probably a little over like, I don't know, 200 like solid cement compounds. And then you had like your more mud brick structures and things like that. One main road, and then you had all the walking paths that went like through the different houses and to the different springs, because everybody, I think there were 3 or 4 springs in the whole community. At one time, they all had pumps, like well pumps, so you can pump out your water. And they break really easily, and then they don't get fixed. And so then people just go back to using the spring, which ended up being one of my projects while I was there. But yeah, so then they have the springs, and looking around, you could see goats walking around, you could see chickens walking around, you could see people walking around in flip-flops and these little like wooden storefront kind of things where they had like the hanging candies and different like packaged goods. Like Milo was huge there. Like I don't know if you know what that is, but I don't know. I wish I could, in my mind, I'm there, but I don't feel like I'm creating like the best visual. Tons of kids running around. There were gutters around the houses, which basically just took the water because it was a rainforest. So they had like a really great rainy season. But it basically just took the water like outside of the front of the house and put it in the back. And the dirt soaked it up pretty well. Like we never had like super massive flooding or anything like that. But that was kind of the village. Yeah, I don't know.
So very different from Portland, Oregon, where you had just come from.
Yes, it was super different. I think that the part that makes it the most different was that it was just like everything was on fire. Like in my mind, like when I remember it, like
What do you mean?
the colors or everything was just so bright because of the sun, you know what I mean? Everything was just the super, super red orange dirt and like these bright, bright, bright green trees, and you were so hot all the time. And like everything was super visceral, like all the smells that you got, like you're like, "Ooh, what's that? Where's that?" You know what I mean? Because you're kind of looking for distractions, to be honest, because you're so trained to be distracted. You're smelling these smells and wanting to follow them, and then you're seeing these animals, and like they're as uncomfortable as you are. I like very clearly remember a pregnant goat getting stuck in the gutter one time.
Oh no.
So she was like, if you imagine like a goat had swallowed like a tire and it was in them
Oh.
sideways. So she had gotten into the gutter to like itch the sides of her belly, like of her underbelly,
Hmm.
and then she couldn't get out. And I was like, that's like a very strong visual for me. It provided me lots of entertainment. I think somebody eventually like picked her up out of there. But like that was the level, like of the things that were entertaining. I was always blown away too. The kids would make games and make stuff to play with out of natural materials, just like all over. And I think there's this game, I think it's called Malkala. I'll have
Is that the
to
one
look it
with
up
like
now.
the holes and the little marble type
Yeah,
thing?
yeah, yeah. And so you could have a board, or if you were a kid in the Ghanaian village, you could just dig up like 12 holes, and go find some seeds and play it that way. And that's the way that they would do it, like. And so I had a bunch of pictures of like kids just making up all this stuff, and everybody wore those flip-flops like that you would wear to like the shower if you were traveling or whatever, like the super cheap rubbery ones. And if you look at the flip-flop, you can make two circles, one in like the toe area and one in the heel area. And once a pair of flip-flops are like done or busted or whatever, they would cut out those two circles and then put a piece of like bamboo or something between the two and make like little wheels, like a wheel set from it,
Mm-hmm.
and push those around and like,
Oh my
you
goodness, so
know,
creative.
yeah, there was lots. I mean, yeah, you have to get creative, but there's nothing there.
Hmm.
So, but in the first thing in the morning, like everybody would head out to the cocoa farm and they would just start like walking. And when I say first thing in the morning, like I feel like Ghanaians slept like 2 hours, or 3 hours. Like they were up like late, like drinking the apateshi and whatever. And then, they would wake up 3, 4 in the morning and start walking out to farm. Um, but then you take like a nap halfway through the day because it would get too hot to do anything. So a lot of them just napped out there. And then at the end of the day, you just walk back and you take care of the cocoa until it's time to sell it. They sell it like once a year, bag it up. All these trucks come in, the town gets super busy, and then everybody has money, and then everybody doesn't have money like the next
Mm.
day, and it's like those little things, just economy, like the way that money flows through a small group of people became really obvious. The way local politics impact a small group of people became very obvious. Even within my community, you have a chief, you have a group of elders that meet and they discuss like, what's going on in the village, and how they're going to deal with it basically. And so it's like direct, like you're there, it was like their form of local government would be like directly impacting them. And um you know it was crazy. You see what you don't see. Like, I like to think about like the reference of like, you get in your car every day, you turn it on and you go somewhere, you're there and whatever. You don't think about like, how does it work? Where do they get the pieces? Where does the gas come from? You know what I mean? What, happens when I turn the key exactly, and when I got to the village, it was like, you were seeing all of those things. You're like, okay, this is what government means. This is what economy means. This is what, this is how women show up and how women take charge in like in a small community. The impact that the women had was like fantastic and so far reaching, because like they literally took care of everything. It was, that part blew my mind too. So yeah.
What would you say are some of the biggest lessons? Obviously, getting to know yourself better and just it sounds like really coming into touch with who you are and what is important to you. What other lessons would you say that you maybe learned from your time there?
This is such a good one. Okay, so they actually think about this and they have you. So Peace Corps was amazing. The trainings that they would do, a lot of times it was just a white flip paper thing. I don't even know, flip chart. But anyways, they would write like some questions on it and then just post them all around the room, and all the volunteers would get up and walk all over and write their answer down. And I remember they had. I couldn't even tell you the name of it now, but basically like our closing, before you leave, you get all everybody gets together. You kind of like run through the plans of like going home and what that looks like and what your next steps are. Not professionally, but like some kind of like resumes and things like that, and anyways, we did that, and I can't remember what it's called, but they posted a thing like, what did you learn, or something like that. And I remember, because I took a picture of it and I wrote down, I don't love everything. So and that was what I wrote as like my culmination of all this knowledge after 2 years, is that I don't love everything. And to like unpack that a little bit, like, because it was a really, really powerful realization for me, because I had always been, positive, optimist, like make all the situations groovy, like I didn't want to stir up any conflict or start, whatever. But like while I was there, like I realized like, yeah, there are some things I don't like. Like I don't like X, I don't like Y. Like I'm not, I don't have to love everything, you can be uncomfortable. You can be, in a place where you're conflicted and you have to like figure out, the best way to get through it while honoring yourself and, also just shutting it down, like you have to, sometimes you just have to like get out of stuff. I don't know. Like, I think I'll probably have to like journal on that now tonight. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, but yeah, like I don't love everything. And once you identify with certain pieces of your personality that people reflect back to you a lot, like I get that reflection of like, oh, you love everything, you're so positive, whatever. And like, and I was identifying with that. I truly was. And I didn't see that, until that moment that I was like, no, you know what? Like, I know you see that, and I know that I put that out there, but like, I don't love everything, and I don't love this moment or that moment, and it was totally okay. And then it came to like this huge acceptance within myself of like not trying to continue to perpetuate that all the time, and I'm still very positive, like outwardly, and like, I that's just something that will always be a part of me. But I think having my moments where I do feel more vulnerable about, what is going on that's negative, and finding the people that I need to just share that with is really, really that was like the huge growing piece for me too. So that makes sense.
So would you say that before that realization, you kind of had these thoughts or things going on inside of you, but you just weren't sharing them, and maybe you were suppressing them and putting on the happy face, and that was the shift, or
Yeah,
something
there
slightly
was
different?
no, there was definitely a bit of that. I think doing that to the point where you're not honoring yourself was that was definitely happening. And that's how I ended up in relationships that I wasn't fully into, because I was like, this should be right, I should love this, like this should be working, and I should be here. And but there was something that I didn't love about that situation, and I wasn't willing to like accept that I didn't, like love that part of that situation. Like, um, I think it was like a people pleasing thing. If I
Okay.
had to like really dial it in, you want other people to feel comfortable. You want to go out of your way to make other people feel welcome and feel like all the good stuff. And then realizing like, well, that's great to a point, but if you're getting to that space where that is causing you pain, or that is causing you to be uncomfortable, then you need to reevaluate, and my whole time that I was in Peace Corps, I had a lot of friends, I would say, because I just like, I would show up and I'd be like, we're going to party, right? Like, we're going to party so hard. Like, we've just been trapped in the village. Like, let's party like expats. You know what I mean? Just throw all your cares out the window. Like, I had a small group of girlfriends that we kind of talked about things on a little deeper level, but majority, I just wanted everybody to have fun. I wanted people who showed up to feel welcome. I wanted people to stay. Like, I wanted people to see all the value that there was in that experience. And that was really like the role that I took on while I was there socially amongst like my American peers, because I found it so valuable. And like, I wasn't putting it into words, and I wasn't like speaking on it on a deeper level. I was just like, you're here. I'm so glad you're here. Like, let's do this. Like, let's, have fun and like make the best of it. And, you know, at the end of that, like, I didn't leave with a ton of super great friendships, because I wasn't diving into the uncomfortable stuff, and I wasn't like really getting deeper with a lot of people, just like my two or three, close friends. And that was like sad to me, because I really, really I loved all the people there. Like, and I know that sounds, contradictory to writing. I don't love everything. There's a lot of stuff I didn't love, but like I loved that they were there and that they were doing it, and like, you know, and that piece. And but also I think there was a lot of me taking my stuff, like, and just like you said, kind of putting it on the back burner, and not making it a priority, and just kind of like moving forward without really dealing with it. And like I got through, like we completed the process and made it to like the, oh my gosh, I can't even remember what the last day is called. There's like a special term for the last day. And it's been a couple of years. It's been like I left Peace Corps in 2015, so 6 years now. Yeah, it's crazy since I've been
Dang.
out. But yeah, it uh, yeah. Yeah. It was a long time ago now that I'm thinking about it.
It sounds like so you had some missed opportunities at connecting with people because of a lack of being able to go deep and be vulnerable and be seen.
Right. Like if I had expressed the stuff that I was dealing with that I didn't like or didn't find comfortable or didn't love, then I definitely think I could have connected with a lot more people. But I was also really in fear that giving in to those things that I didn't love, or those negative ideas or negative feelings, would cause me to leave, and cause me to, leave this experience, and shut it all down. I kind of had like an all or nothing like thinking. Like I just had to get through it, had to be positive, had to make everybody feel good. And like by the end of it, I was exhausted. Like
Yeah.
I think I was so exhausted by the time I left Peace Corps, just emotionally. It was very different because like when I left Portland and I left my job there working, in mental health, I was exhausted in like a, I don't know, energetic, like it's hard to describe counselor burnout per se, but like I was just kind of like empathy, like was just out the window, like it was all gone. And then once I left Peace Corps, it was like all of my joy, all of my excitement, all of my like over the top stuff, I was like, whoa, I'm really tired now. You know, like, I'm ready to go be old now. Like,
I can retire to the country now.
right. Like that was a lot. And yeah. But then, you know, just the change in environments after that, when I came back, there was a lot of adjustment, and the gratitude that I felt for being in a space where I had all the amenities, all the distractions, all my friends, all my stuff. You know, it was slow, but I, you know, slipped kind of back into that mindset of like, you know, bring on all the distractions again, you know. But I was so grateful for it because I didn't have it. And, you know, um, I remember when I came back, like just flipping on a light switch or flushing the toilet or, you know, grabbing something out of the fridge. Like these were huge things. And although I was like exhausted, I remember spending so much time on my mom's couch, like when I got back, like just laying there, like, I promise I'm looking for a job, you know, like, but please just let me enjoy laying under a blanket for another minute, you know, like blankets are so nice. Pillows are so nice.
You had a
But
deep
yeah,
appreciation for the simple things that we tend to take for granted in the Western world, it sounds like.
for sure, for sure. So there was like a whole mindset change, you know, there was lots of gear shifting, and you know, it takes years or very like intentional person to process, I think, what Peace Corps was and like what it does for you like along the way, you know. I was one of the older volunteers because a lot of people go right after college, but they take people up to, I think, like 70 or something like that, like
I think the
and they
oldest
take,
volunteer was like in their 80s. I looked
yeah,
into
and
it
you,
once.
right, and they can take couples, and so like it's by no means something that anybody should be deterred from, but because of their age. But with my particular group, I was a little bit older, and because I had gone after grad school, but um, and that was a relevant piece because I like felt like, again, like I should have it all together, you know, like I should kind of like be the leader, the example, the like, you know, the person that like taking charge. Um,
Unnecessary pressure you were putting on yourself.
yes, it shows up everywhere. But had I not been in that mindset, like had I been more in the, you know, kind of awareness space that I am now, that experience would just be like so different. And I think I would have processed it more as it was happening versus like years later. Now I'm still thinking about it. I'm like, oh, I could go journal about that tonight. You know, like, you know, just like it brings me back because I didn't at the time, you know. Well, actually, I journaled quite a bit when I was there, but I still didn't feel like I had all of the tools, you know, that I have now, all the awareness that I have now to, you know, really go as deeply as you could with something like that, you know. I think one of my favorite quotes is, no man can truly help another without helping themselves. And that was like Peace Corps in a nutshell, because it did so much for the people there, for you to be there and to like work on all the projects that we did. And there was lots of like really great work that happened. But I think if you ask just about any Peace Corps volunteer, they would say that the best part of the experience was what had happened within themselves versus like, you know, the change that they saw in the community and stuff like that, or that they were pretty equal. Like some people probably had a pretty like great experience. I mean, there's lots of people that built clinics and like did super fantastic things that, you know, like, yeah, having an insight is probably as good as that. I don't know, you know, like, but yeah, that was that.
Mm, sounds like a life-changing experience. Do you think that
Yes.
you needed that to get to where you are today?
1,000%. So, you know, had I not gone through that experience, I 100% would still be living a life that was based on what other people loved and what other people loved about me and what other people thought I should be doing. And And after really getting to know more about myself, more about what I wanted in life, I left Peace Corps, I think, radiating like exactly what I wanted. And within, so I got back to 2015 and I met my husband in 2016. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it happened so fast. Like I think everything that I let go of, all of the stuff that not people, but like society kind of was impressing on me, or that I had gotten this idea somewhere along the line that I should, or, whatever, do or want or be. I let it all go afterwards. I mean, it took the whole experience, like getting through to the end to like let it all go. And then when I got back, stuff just like started kind of aligning for me in a way that it never had before. And it started to feel true. Like I started to really understand what it meant to be in your truth and like live in your truth, and not have to deal with this like fight in your head all day about, is this right, is this person right, is this job right, is this whatever. Like I didn't have a lot of that afterwards, because I could just feel it, and I could just trust that, like, no, this is right, like I'm good with this, and like, oh, he's the right one, like like this is great, I'm gonna marry this man, you know what I mean. And like it happened, probably we got married like 6 months after we met, and we weren't even living together. And now it's almost, we're going on our 5th year this year, second baby. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm. When
I
you know,
could
you
not.
know.
It's true. Like I could not be happier. And I don't think, like, definitely there's a lot of stuff that I'm like not verbalizing correctly that had happened like under the surface, in Peace Corps. But I think, had I not done that, had I, last minute, when I was making those changes to my life in Portland and things started to feel a little bit better, I think it would have been a couple months before I would have been back in the hole of trying things that weren't working, because I thought that's what I should be doing. I should be doing this. I should be doing this. And, I let all that go. And, um, I still have, like, don't get me wrong, like, still have like goals about stuff that I want to like accomplish, but it all feels very much my own. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like an idea that was given to me from a person or a company or something like that. That's the other
Yeah.
thing is, you completely detach from advertising, and you
Oh, that's got to be
don't,
amazing.
yeah, you don't even realize like how super, super powerful that is. We flew back from Ghana. I went to Turkey. That was the first time I had traveled by myself in a different country, and it was Turkey. And like, I was so high on life at that point. I wanted to go. So my thing after Peace Corps was like, I wanted to work with refugees. Like that was what I thought, like instantly afterwards. Like I was like, I think I'm craving this, I really like this being out here, expat kind of life. And I'm going to go work with refugees, particularly, the ones in camps in Syria, like right outside of Turkey, whatever. So I planned my layover was in Turkey. I extended it a couple days. I had connections with people who were in the expat community. So I got this bus ride organized for myself to the border, where I was going to go visit some camps and like all this crazy stuff. And it turned out like I just didn't have enough time to make it happen, to put myself in that situation. And that was to my benefit, because probably wasn't the best thing to do if you're a blonde woman traveling around Turkey and alone. So anyways, after Turkey, I flew back into New York, and I just remember seeing like all the billboards, all the lights, all of this like imagery and words and stuff was just like coming at you, and you're like, oh my god, you know what I mean? Like, this is like, what is this, like, and then I would be sitting there at home, and the TV would be on, and all of a sudden like the advertisements or stuff are yelling at you, and there's like all these pictures of food, and I'm like, what is, like, turn it off, like shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
You become really sensitive to that stuff. So yeah, that was nice to get a break from that. And to see like the power that it has over what you think you want, Like if you're just sitting there and then all of a sudden a commercial comes on and there's like a cheeseburger and you're like, oh yeah, no, I want a cheeseburger, you know?
That Coke
Maybe,
looks really good.
right? Like, why do I want one? Like, I don't even know. I just ate, you know, like, and I'm a vegan. No, it's
Right?
like, but yeah, so there's lots of shifting on the way coming back. But you know how I said, like, I did know what I wanted to do kind of after that. And I went through the process of like trying to figure out how to start an NGO or like be a part of some international relief organizations like the IRC and stuff like that. And as it continued to be work to like do those things, I realized like, no, I'm satisfied. Like I'm actually really satisfied with being home. I was so grateful. And like it was like once I got home, like I was like, okay, this is good.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to touch back, like circle back around real quick to
Mhm.
you said you started feeling better when you were leaving Portland and you had that like moment,
Yeah.
like maybe I shouldn't go. I wonder if you started feeling better because you were actually following your path and that was the beginning of you really, really tuning into yourself and stripping away all the programming and what everybody else says and thinks and pushes on
Mhm.
you to really getting to your core. And then that was just like your catalyst was everything in the Peace Corps. Then you came back and everything started falling into place because you're in the flow of life. You're in the synchronicities. You're on your path.
Yeah, I definitely think that, you know, in action, like when you're not making the changes. I listened to some podcast the other day where she's like, it's like you're dealing with the pain of making the change or the pain of being where you are. And so when I was in the relationship and working in the field and not and being in pain and not making the changes, it was just starting those changes that like released some of that pain. And you know, there was definitely pain that came afterwards. That was the uncomfortableness of all the change. But
Mm-hmm.
that was the pain that I chose, and that was the welcome pain. That was like the pain that's like worth it because you know that there's going to be something on the other side. If you just sit in your mess, like that's not a pain that's worth it. You know, it's doesn't get you anywhere. You're not getting anything out of it. So choose the like the pain that gets you where you want to be, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. You stripped all those layers back and saw your soul.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
that was like the biggest step, you know, like I think we all have those little like moments where we get this opportunity to let go of the stuff that we're like holding on to probably too tightly. And if you don't take it, you end up being like weighed down by those things. And when you do take it and you can release those things, like good things come.
Mm-hmm. And it's scary.
So
It's terrifying when you change things for when you step into the unknown, but it's
mhm,
trusting. Like you were saying that feeling,
mhm,
like it just felt like something you needed to do. Jump and
right.
the
And
net will
then
appear.
exactly. And like the way that you are present when you are in an unfamiliar situation is insane. Like it's like drugs, you know? Like I
That's
mean,
why
I
I
don't
love
I don't have a
travel.
lot of experience, but yeah, whenever you're in a new environment, like all your senses are heightened, like everything that you've become like kind of numb to from your normal everyday whatever. That's all off. Like everything's on. You're like sight, smells, things. And that's why I was like, when I think about it in my mind, and I go back to the village and I go back, it's such like an alive, like visceral memory that I'm having because everything, like I was just taking in it all, you know. Um, and it just makes you feel alive.
Hmm. Yeah, I actually read about a study the other day. Some college did. I don't have any of the resources to tell you to cite this, but some college did this and they polled a bunch of people, students and professors, if they knew where the closest fire extinguisher was. And
Yeah,
people that have been sitting in these classrooms for a whole semester had no idea that it was in the back corner. One
right.
professor that worked there for 20 years didn't know that there was one right outside his office. So
Yeah.
so it's the same thing, you're there every day, you
Uh-huh.
don't really take it in, but when you're somewhere new,
Right.
like you're saying, everything is new and you're absorbing it all.
Right. And that's the same with your external environment as it is with your internal environment. You know, you get you put yourself in a different external environment, you're going to see new things inside as well. You're like, oh, and what's that over there?
Hmm.
and you have to, I love too with like traveling and being in new situations, is like it pulls different strengths out of you, that you didn't know that you had. And it also pulls like all the insecurities out as well. But like, if you think about trying to like, go speak to somebody in a different language that you don't know, you know, like there is a part of you that wants to like step up and show up and like really try and like really get that communication open somehow. And then there's a part of you that feels like terrified, like they're going to think you're so dumb, or, I'm going to totally butcher this phrase or whatever. But, like letting all those parts like get out and have some exercise is like the best. It's like, you need to do that.
Hmm. Do you
Yeah.
find, and you've moved a lot since then. So currently you're in
Yes.
Japan about to wrap up that chapter. Do you find
Yeah.
that in all of those moves that you're able to stay that present?
I think definitely initially. So with Japan, it's interesting because we've lived here for 2 years total, but I was only here in the country for a year and a half because we had to come home for something for 6 months. But when we first got here, I would say that whole first year, especially because when I got here, my husband had left too, so he went out on the ship for a while, and so I was here alone with a 1-year-old, and everything was new. And like, yes, like I will leave Japan having that same kind of memory that I have of Ghana, like all the visual, like it just like burned into my heart and my mind and my eyes, and that seeing it with freshness. The part that I am so looking forward to now after being here this last 6 months we've been here, because COVID has changed, your ability to like travel around, because we were under a lot of restrictions as Americans, being here in a host nation country, you have to follow different rules than they do, say like I can't leave the prefecture and all this kind of stuff. So anyways, so that kind of changed stuff, and it really like I settled into my house. I got really good at like Marie Kondoing stuff, like organizing, taking on like the Japanese Zen and like the skills that like, is just like present, and they're super, super mindful about doing like any mundane task. It's just brilliant to watch like a Japanese person. Like, I mean, you see the trees and the gardens and stuff like that. Like the elders are out there like clipping one leaf at a time in their yard, and it's beautiful. But I am super excited to come back to America the same way that I did after Ghana, looking at America through those same traveling eyes, because now like this place that was once my home is going to be very foreign. And it's going to stand out, and I'm going to see all the things that I love about America. You know what I mean? Like there's so many inherent blessings come with being born American, and I don't think a lot of people realize that, if you go to different parts of the country or parts of the world, whatever, you see, just how absolutely blessed you were to just be born in a country where you have so much, too much, obviously, but so much. And, I, it makes my heart like happy to know that like I do love my home, while I love traveling and seeing all these new places and being immersed in these different cultures, and absorbing like the beautiful like habits and just everything about the culture. I go back home, and that feeling of being home and then like truly, truly appreciating it. um, I'm really looking forward to that. I know that right now in the space that um, we as Americans are kind of in, that it's very difficult for a lot of people to see all of the blessings that come with living there and being American. I'm making a generalization, but from the outside, it's kind of what it looks like right now. But I think it's temporary, and I think that our country is filled with so much positive, um, you know, what's the word when there's just so much positive power for change and influence, like that potential to create like world awareness through like media that's America. You know what I mean? We can show you anything. We can tell you anything. We can inspire you to do anything because we just have that voice and have that, like, I don't know, influence. Influence is a great word. Yeah.
It's all the intention behind how we want to use it.
Exactly. And to get those people that are in that positive space and in that appreciative space and that gratitude space to speak more, to do like what you're doing and starting a podcast and like and sharing that positive power for influence and that positive power for change, and knowing that we live in a place where it's okay to do that. Like there are other countries where you can't say whatever you want and like you can't do whatever you you know what I mean, to the degree that it doesn't even like impact somebody. But there's lots of countries where they're you don't have the same freedoms, obviously. So yeah.
It's been so great chatting with you, Lynda.
Yeah.
Hearing more about your time in Ghana and all of the changes and transformation that came out of that. I really appreciate you sharing today.
Of course.
I have a few questions I like to ask everybody at the end.
Yes.
So, well, first of all, before I ask these, is there anything that you still have on your heart to share?
That is a great question. I did not, I thought that I had a lot more words for what that experience was for me, but going through this now, I realize that I don't. And so I apologize for that.
Not at all.
That's all that's on my heart, is that, like, the whole experience itself was so like shifting in so many ways that, the fact that I don't have enough words to convey what that meant to me and like what those people meant to me and what that space meant to me, it kind of makes me sad. But also, I would just like encourage anybody who's curious at all to who thinks that like that type of experience might be something that they need or might be something that would give them clarity or something like that, like just do it. Just be prepared for it to be uncomfortable, but know that it's all worth it. Kind of it.
Maybe you should write a book about it.
Oh, I don't know. There's so many other things I'd write a book about first, I think.
Fair enough. We'll be waiting for your first book. Keep us posted. We'll have you back on to talk about it.
Sounds good.
So if you could tell every human on the planet one thing, what would it be?
You're perfect. Yeah. You're perfect.
Just as you are.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
What is your current life motto or mantra?
Oh, it changes like so often. I think, the very elementary one that comes back to me right now is just keep swimming. Like that is one that I really enjoy because I like enjoy cartoons. But I also just feel like, just keep going, just keep swimming. Don't get too caught up in anything and, just keep going.
Yeah. Keep moving.
Yeah.
Build that momentum.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure people will want to connect with you, or they might want to ask about Peace Corps, or you're also a counselor. How can they connect with you?
Well, if you want to find me on Instagram, that my public page is Shift Mindset. It's shift_mindset. And you can message me or email me there. But if you just want to search me out any other way, my name is Lynda Romero, and you can probably find me.
It's open. Find her
Right,
anywhere.
yeah. There are so many ways.
And I will link in the description, I'll put shift mindset in there so it's
Yeah,
easy
cool.
easy to find.
Thank
Well,
you.
excellent. Thank you so much, Lynda, and thank you, listeners, for joining in to join. Blah, blah, blah. Thank you, listeners, for joining today. And until next time.
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you for listening to this episode number 6. I cannot believe we're already on episode number 6. Been going a month and a half now. So much great community and connection and conversation has already started to bloom from this little baby seed of an idea that came through to create this podcast. Again, I want to thank everybody for your support. And if you feel called to, please leave a review, like, and follow. If you're liking these episodes, if you like it on your podcast listening program, whatever it's called, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen, if you like it, then it will notify you when new podcasts are released, when new episodes are released. So you can always stay up to date. Um, Feel free to share it with your friends, your family, and if you feel called as well, you are welcome to donate to the cause, which will help to get more advanced equipment, like a microphone. And yeah, because it takes a lot of time and effort to put these together. And I mean, to be honest, if I'm being completely honest, my goal would be to be fully supported in doing this work. I just find it so meaningful, so impactful, and that's the vision that I'm going to hold. And I know one day it will happen. I'm enjoying every step of the journey along the way. I love you all, and we will talk to you next week.